Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Ebbsfleet Planning Committee. Apologies for the slight delay. We're ready to go. This meeting is going to be recorded, and once it's been recorded, it will be placed on the EDC website. So my name's Neil Cameron. I'm chair of this committee and a non-executive director of the Development Corporation. And I'm going to turn to my fellow committee members and ask them to introduce themselves.
Hello, good evening. Valerie Owen, Vice Chair of the Planning Committee and non-exec Swedish EDC.
Hello, Marsh. I'm an independent member of the Planning Committee.
And Lee.
Lee Coxon, apologies for being late. Gravesham Borough Councillor, planning.
And on.
Hello there. My name is Councillor David Moat. I represent the Dartford Borough Council and I sit on the Cabinet as housing portfolio holder.
Thank you. And Mark, would you like to introduce your officers?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Neil. So I'm Mark Pullen, I'm the Director of Planning and Place. Wendy?
It's Wendy Simpson. I'm Senior Planner at EDC.
Karen Cronin, Senior Planning Manager at EDC.
Simon Harrison, Head of Design at EDC.
And Tim Sharp, Legal Advisor.
Okay, thank you very much. So we turn to item, apologies for absence, have been received from Fred Eunice. Item 2, declarations of interest. We have standing declarations which are found on the EDC website. Any other declarations of interest?
No.
No. Next, minutes of the meeting that we held on the 10th of April. Any comments, observations, changes to those minutes?
No.
We approve the minutes?
Indeed.
Thank you very much. Right, item 5. Northfleet and Bank East. Can I just say, first of all, that this is an application made by the Development Corporation. And this is a reasonably normal account for us, and therefore we have local handling. And if anybody would like to see those handling arrangements, they are found on the website. They have been observed in this case. And we're going to treat this application the same way that we would treat an application made by anybody else. So the same rules apply. Any of you are familiar with the committee's terms of reference. So the procedure we're going to follow is presentation. Wendy's going to give us a presentation. It'll last for 10 minutes. We have no registered objectors. So then supporters, if you'd like to address us, you have 5 minutes in total. And it's up to you how you use your 5 minutes. And once we've gone through that process, there'll be an opportunity for committee members to ask questions or for officers to clarify. And once we've done that, the committee will debate the item. At that stage, I'm going to ask the supporters team to move back to the table because it will be the committee to debate. And then we'll make a decision. Can I just say before Wendy starts her presentation that we have got in front of us a committee report, and we've also got some supplementary information on conditions. And Mark, I think there's something else to add. Are you going to deal with that now?
I think maybe I could just ask Karen to update on that after Wendy's presentation.
Yes. Right. Hand over to Wendy. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. The proposal before you tonight is an application for full planning permission
made by Ebbsfleet Development Corporation for the redevelopment of this vacant, previously developed site to provide an employment park. The park will consist of 5 buildings subdivided into units within use classes EG1, office, EG2, R&D, EG3, light industrial, with a supporting cafe unit. The Ebbsfleet Embankment East area forms part of the Northfleet Riverside Strategic Development Area, which in part is a key regeneration opportunity area for mixed use employment floor space in office, industrial and warehousing uses. This photograph shows the large unit industrial uses to the west and the north of the site, and the Cable Wharf residential area, school site, as well as the Rocheville area at the top of the cliff to the south of the site. Key matters for the development, in addition to the creation of employment floor space, include the impact on living conditions of neighbours and the impact of the development on the highway network. There are material matters to consider in respect to the cliff to the south of the application site, which in the applicant's reports identified as likely to require remedial structural works, potentially has habitat and ecological importance in relation to bats. The site itself has been vacant for many years and the land levels have been reduced in the past through quarrying activities. As a result, most of the site is level, but there's a step up of about 2 metres from the northern to the southern part of the site. The cliffs to the rear of the site owned by the applicant but have been placed outside of the application site on the site plan within the blue area. This slide shows the proposed site layout of 5 buildings. Proposed works include the demolition of a small remnant building on the site and the removal of the foundation slabs, the provision of a new crossover to a small car park from Creekle Road to a small car park serving the cafe, the amendment of the main access for the rest of the employment park. There's the primary access road through the site here, and there's the secondary access road running to the rear of buildings 2, 3 and 4. There's proposed the rearrangement of the public highway to provide a footway and cycleway along Rocheville Way and around the corner with Creekle Road. Site highway works provide pedestrian parallel Creekle Road. There's significant planting and landscaping proposed. This slide shows the northern part of the site, building 1, which is proposed in the ground floor. It demonstrates the holistic redesign of the public highway together with the applicant's own land, which finishes at the blue line. And you can see that it creates a new street arrangement resulting in a much improved greener public realm, together with a more friendly pedestrian environment, including street trees and shrub hedging, grass verge, creating a greater separation of the road traffic from the pedestrians and cyclists. The street furniture that you can see in the photograph at the bottom is actually located at about this point within the grass verge on the plan. And so the CGI isn't quite right. The whole of this area is to become green in accordance with the plan. Also within this space, there's a public sewer with an easement. So building 1 would act as a corner building within the redevelopment of the site and the area. It would be a cafe space at ground floor level and office space over with access out onto a roof terrace. The building itself would be with brick construction in reference to the chalk cliffs. The upper story parts at the higher part of the building clad in grey metal cladding. An extended parapet would form tower feature referencing the stock towers that form Rocheville Pleasure Gardens. The grouping of tall windows references the local Henley building. This slide shows the site layout of buildings 2, 3, 4 and 5, 2 to 4 fronting onto Rocheville Way. This would be 10 units of flexible light industrial and R&D use. Building 5 would be more remote within the site by 5 light industrial units that could accommodate HGV traffic. The turning area for the HGVs, including refuses between building 5 and the cliff. In terms of scale, buildings 2 to 5 would be of 2-storey height, although without first floor or mezzanine construction. Individual operators would need to apply to install mezzanine levels as they would need to demonstrate they had sufficient on-site parking to support their use. Buildings 2 to 4 would have a saw roof form, saw tooth roof form, and building 5 a monopitched roof form. The ground floor level of all of these buildings would be of precast concrete. The red markings on the elevations shows panels that would be manufactured with a recess to accommodate the future fix the applicant as part of their art strategy programme for the Garden City. The upper part of these buildings would be finished with a metal cladding, gradually darkening in a blue tone from north to south. Building 2 here is typical of buildings 2, 3 and 4, would have large glazed areas in their frontage onto Rocheville Way and direct public access into the units from the public highway. The rear elevation of the units would have roller shutters, vehicle openings and an open yard accessed off the secondary access road. This slide shows the light industrial building 5, which will be subdivided into 5 units with a more traditional enclosed service yard. As part of the low carbon use design for the development, all of the units would have PV solar arrays, as you can see here on the roof. The energy strategy supplied in support of the application details the use of air source heat pumps, the installation of infrastructure for 100% electric vehicle charging potential within the site. 40% of parking spaces would have active EV charging at commencement of use. The achievement of BREEAM Excellence certification is proposed and secured by planning condition, as well as the various low energy mitigation measures to offset the air quality damage costs for the development. The application has also agreed to payment of monetary obligations in relation to air quality towards the implementation of the Gravesham Borough Council Air Quality Action Plan, Air Quality Monitoring. In terms of detailing, this slide shows the breakout areas proposed within the site in almost a garden setting in the landscape areas internal to the site. The picture on the right on the yellow dashed line shows the location of the exclusion zone fencing for the cliff that's outside of the but adjacent to the application site. The site itself is known to require structural survey, potential remediation, and part of the cliff to the east of this cliff owned by the applicant is known to have both roosting and feeding vents. And as such, a preliminary ecological survey of the cliff is required, as well as bat surveying before any clearance of the cliff vegetation can take place. This is the subject of pre-commencement planning condition. The condition to agree bat sensitive lighting, if it's necessary, is also listed. This slide shows the improvements proposed at the bottom of the zigzag steps and ramps on Rocheville Way down from London Road. The inset picture is from the latest transport note and shows the creation of an extended waiting area at the bottom of the steps and the start of the shared wayside way. As evident from the photograph, this will result in a very significant betterment of this part of the street for anyone using the ramp and the steps. In relation to operational hours for the employment park, a planning condition has been suggested to restrict the opening hours of the whole park to 10 p.m. to protect neighbours from noise and disturbance. And this is in line with the operational hours allowed for the adjacent schools and community uses. Overall, the planning conditions listed in the committee report, payment of subject to those conditions and the payment of the obligations, it's considered the proposal would result in a high quality and distinctive small employment park, as well as be pivotal in the creation of a new and vastly improved ordering, operation, character and appearance of the adjacent public highway. The proposal will provide much needed employment space in accordance with the local plan and would provide a much increased biodiversity net gain within the site itself. The proposal would not result in harm to neighbours' amenities, and it would acceptably address matters of the ecological interests of the site, heritage interests, sustainability, flood risk, contamination, as well as traffic flow and safety. As such, the application is recommended for approval.
Thank you very much indeed. And
Pick up from Karen
Yes.
if we can. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, you will note at paragraph 7.53 of the committee report, this refers to a request from KCC Highways for development contributions towards improvement of the ramp and steps in Rocheville to the site. At the time of writing the report, no cost had been provided, so this was discounted. However, just before this committee meeting started, we have received an email from KCC Highways requesting £50,000. It's 35,000 for lighting improvements and 15,000 vegetation clearing.
Thank you. Now, just before we move on, just on that last item, that request from Kent County Council, what I am proposing, subject to other members agreeing, is that we consider the application. We, under the current recommendation, there's a recommendation to grant subject to a planning obligation, section 106 contribution. The officers advised us that Kent County Council had not quantified this sum or justified it, and therefore the policy test was not met. Now that this request came in, I'm told about 1 minute before 5 o'clock. It is before the Development Corporation, so we're going to have to consider it. But equally, the applicant has to have a chance to comment on it and to respond to it. So what I'm planning to do is to debate the application, but to leave over the item of planning obligations to the Director of Planning and Place. So if, and it'd be up to us, if we were to accept the recommendation, I'm going to propose a slightly altered recommendation, which would then delegate the decision to Mark, Colin, depending on whether it's to approve or to refuse, but if it's to approve, delegate subject to him making a determination on whether that planning obligation meets the tests, having considered the Kent request and having considered any response to it. Now, is everybody happy with that proposal? Or
Absolutely.
thank you, Councillor Moat indicated yes. So we're all agreed on that approach. Good, thank you. Well, let's thank you, Karen, for dealing with that at the last moment. No objectors, supporters, 5 minutes.
Thank you for inviting us to speak this evening and present the application. My name is Jen Hunt. I'm the Director of Development here at EDC. Here at EDC, we have a statutory responsibility to regenerate the area. And this means creating jobs as well as homes to ensure we are delivering a sustainable community. EDC is also willing to step in, as we are here, to deliver where there's a lack of viability for the private sector to ensure delivery of our overall vision. We believe in the catalytic effect of public sector investment in high quality development. As such, have corporately set high design and environmental ambitions for ourselves and others in delivering the Garden City. And we believe this application in front of you demonstrates these ambitions. We have strived to ensure that the quality, size and mix of units would appeal strongly to new and expanding businesses, whilst also being flexible to adapt and respond to changing demands. We've been engaging with local agents and other relevant agencies to ensure the scheme is market facing, responds to local current and future needs, and will support the economic growth and prosperity of the local area. The application site, although small, is a key gateway into the Northfleet Embankment East, and therefore also plays an important role in the overall mixed use regeneration of Northfleet. I'm now going to pass over to Eloise from Lee Evans, who will go into the site in more detail.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. The application has been developed through extensive dialogue with numerous stakeholders, including EDC officers, KCC Highways and members of the public. The applicant has undertaken 3 pre-applications over the course of the last 3 years. Extensive information and guidance has been provided by EDC throughout this process, including key shared aspirations, and this has been invaluable in shaping the proposals that they now stand. The applicant has also undertaken public engagement exercises and carried out a members briefing, both of which have informed and shaped the scheme that's presented to you this evening. The development of this site presents numerous challenges. It must deliver on multiple fronts and respond to numerous demands. it needs to be attractive to new businesses whilst providing a robust offering in the face of changing economic and market demands. It must also deliver high quality development that considers public realm, landscaping and placemaking principles, whilst ensuring that day-to-day functional and operational needs are met, such as sufficient parking, access for HGVs and a robust building design suited to the nature of the uses proposed. The site is located in both a core strategy opportunity area and an urban regeneration area. It's also part of a wider allocation tasked with the delivery of, amongst other things, high quality jobs. The application seeks permission for a mix of flexible employment uses, which it is considered will foster economic growth and investment in the area, whilst allowing businesses to grow and adapt as required. On the evidence of the market research submitted with the application, it's considered that a more flexible use offering will maximise occupation and be attractive to the market in both medium and longer term. It's submitted that this attuned with the aspirations for the key regeneration area, which in the past has declined due to its reliance on single employment use type. The proposed layout makes the most efficient and effective use of the land available, and in doing so delivers the maximum employment floor space achievable, whilst also providing the necessary parking provision, vehicle and pedestrian movement routes, landscaping and delivery areas. The proposed layout provides an active frontage that also acts as part of the secure boundary of the site and delivers a feature building on the junction of Rosherville Way and Crete Hall Road. Meanwhile, the internal layout will create a series of unique spaces set amongst generous landscaping that are inviting, safe and accessible for employees and visitors, in the case of the Cafe Square, or simultaneously catering for the extensive delivery and parking demands of this industrial use type unit. The proposals also deliver public realm benefit in the form of a redesigned footpath, cycleway and soft landscaping highway verge along Rosherville Way and Crete Hall Road. This will replace the unattractive existing tarmac footpath with clear wayfinding and a soft landscape comprising semi-mature trees, hedging and wildflower. This all responds to EDC's public realm strategy and the Design for Ebbsfleet guide and will provide an impactful setting for the development generally. Through the pre-apps undertaken and ongoing dialogue with planning and design officers at EDC, the applicant has progressively refined the design concept to deliver a scheme that is both functional and visually attractive. This draws strong reference to the area's industrial heritage and legacy and respects the local context, including design, layout and form. The result is a collection of buildings that use form, materials and scale to create visual interest that's rarely seen in employment sites of this nature. The repeated palette and form of the building also creates a cohesive building composition that sits comfortably within the context of the street scene. Permeability into the units via the large windows, plus the unique form of the blocks, creates an engaging streetscape that will encourage activity and engagement from passers-by. Alongside the new public realm and footpath improvements discussed above, the applicant also commits to delivering a pedestrian parallel crossing on Crete Hall Road, thereby improving highway safety for all of those using the routes from the north to the south. The development will provide parking in accordance with applicable parking standards, with 40% parking equipped with an active EV charging and the rest supplied with passive provision. This is in excess of requirements. Cycle store provision is also proposed at a level in excess of policy requirement.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you. So maybe we'll just touch on some of the sustainability aspects of the proposal and then summarise. So the applicant is committed to addressing climate change. The development will deliver on policy requirements by achieving BREEAM excellent rating for water efficiency and will incorporate measures for low carbon build through the use of air source heat pumps, solar PV, high levels of insulation and airtight construction. And to summarise, the proposal will secure maximum job creation in the immediate term and employment retention in the long term through a scheme that responds to EDC policy and guidance on design and public realm quality, environmental interests and parking and accessibility needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt you. Right, we can hand over to committee members who may have questions or observations. Is there anything you'd like to add at all? Or then
Keen to hit the whole committee. I think.
Very good. Yes, Councillor Cross.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I know we need these sorts of units in the local area. I'm still wondering what the target audience is. Who do you think are you going to be attracted into this? And what sort of employment range type are we looking at?
If I start,
Yeah.
we're trying to create something that is attractive to a range of different employment uses and users at this stage. But the evidence suggests that there is a significant demand of units, particularly this scale for small businesses starting up, but also, as you've seen, hopefully from some of the images that Wendy had up, both startup and larger units as well. So I don't think we're necessarily targeting a single audience. We think that's not necessarily good for the long-term sustainability of the scheme, but this is about supporting local businesses to expand and develop. As I think it was made clear, some of the units have ability to make mezzanines. So there's some future proofing there. Admittedly, they'd need to come back for additional permission for that. But you know, we are very much looking at that sort of more light industrial type area of businesses, noting the school as an adjacent user and to buffer against the little to the west as well. But we're not necessarily boxing ourselves into a single area of business at this stage.
Yes, come back on. I'm still trying to get a feel for it. I think it's great. So I've got no problem. I'm not critical in that sense. I'm just light industrial. I was thinking you were going towards the other end of the market. Can you describe what you mean by light industrial in that sense in this area?
Yeah, what I mean by that is I don't mean sort of your huge distribution warehouses. I mean small businesses or users that need space to make things or create, store. We have obviously got HGV access into Unit 5 at the bottom here to enable slightly larger businesses. But I think we are quite keen to make sure this is a different offering to some of the larger, more distribution type employment that you get up in other areas of Norfolk where there's plenty of provision. But this is trying to complement and act as a buffer between those sorts of usage and the school and the residential nearby. So we're trying to create grow on space. Hopefully this image you can see where there are some smaller units and bigger units, so quite a bit of variety. But what I mean by that is, yeah, nothing that you would consider particularly dirty or nasty or noisy. And of course, with the timings of the uses, we wouldn't have things operating for 24 hours. But this is quite different from, say, an office, which we've allowed for in block 1 at the top, but not across the rest of the site.
Thank you. I mean, I just liked the term grow on space, which presumably means that smaller businesses come in, develop and expand elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's something, again, from the evidence, particularly say from sometimes in Kent, there's a huge demand for that grow on. People can start, there's very, very little small space to go into. They might get to say the bigger units or some of the other industrial parks that are already operational in the area.
Good chair.
Councillor David Moat. David.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I considering who the applicant is, I'm not surprised that this is extremely good application. I'm very pleased, for instance, about the steps and stairway, which I think is possibly the same stairway that the school children will be using to get to their school. I stand to be corrected on that. Reference to the cliff faces, etc. We're all concerned about cliff faces at the moment, so I'm pleased to see that you've taken an element of that in consideration. And it was interesting to hear what you were saying about the possible implementation of mezzanine floors. We've had issues in Dartford where people have snuck in mezzanine floors and are actually increasing their car parking spaces, which has caused a bit of a long-term issue. What is interesting also, and it's not a material consideration or necessarily something to list with planning, but when the London resort was first mooted and we were looking at possibly relocating the Northfleet industrial units, there was nowhere to send them. There was nowhere to go. But this here, it looks like we are creating that sort of opportunity for people. And I imagine some of the people who are actually in that Northfleet estate at the moment may think of relocating here if the opportunity arose. But I think on the whole, I was very impressed with the application. Hardly surprising, really. It was very good. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Yes, I think the application is certainly greatly improved actually from what we've seen last months or so. But I must admit, Councillor Cross has point again, because and the 7.9 says there's a market assessment fund, so presumably you do have analysis of who might come and occupy, and yet there seems to be concern over air quality to the extent that it's going to be monitored by Gravesham. In other words, there must be, or presumably there must be, some anticipation of the sort of users that might be there. That's kind of contradictory to what your earlier response was, if you see where I'm coming from. So what is that rationale? Is it just a kind of plan B, as it were, in case there are, you know, some noxious users there like that? What's the thinking?
I might have to look to Wendy, but can only assume that because we haven't been able to be completely explicit about users, it's there to protect the fact that there is some flexibility in the use classes that we've put in the application. But Wendy, I don't know if it might, if I'm allowed to ask Wendy as the employee that.
My understanding from the Gravesham officers is that this is one of the standard contributions that they ask for on major developments, because then the monitoring information they collect is then used by all future developers that come forward, their specialists, to then look at the air quality of the area cumulatively. So that's part of their standard monitoring.
Okay, so it's not that they know something that we, the committee, don't know, so to speak. Okay, no, that's helpful. Thank you.
It was an AQMA, but it's recently been revoked, but they still require financial contributions for monitoring to ensure that it doesn't go back within the AQMA.
Okay, thank you very much. And on biodiversity, the application predates the new requirements from DEFRA to do the net gain analysis. And you're saying in the report that it comes to about 8.75%, so it's sort of there or thereabouts. On the other hand, it does seem a shame, given it's absolute city and we are really promoting green credentials, that we can't hit the 10%. I mean, is there any option, for example, to put a green roof on the cable works, because it's flat, isn't it? I mean, is there any more possibility of reaching what would actually be the standard, not in excess, but the standard, even accepting that this predates the new legislation, which I think came in on February or something?
We feel like we have explored pretty much every avenue available to us in reaching the position we have reached. I think it's fair to say that we have worked closely with the LPA to balance BNG, but also landscape safety, I think is probably the way of phrasing it. So because of the nature of the way in which the calculator works, it doesn't necessarily promote use of habitats that the LPA would necessarily want to see in certain areas of the scheme. So I think what we feel is being presented is the balance between most possible BNG we can get, but is also a safe and accessible and attractive scheme. But unfortunately, things like putting a green roof on cable or cable works, we did investigate it. It does provide us with a number of additional challenges that we can overcome, sadly.
In the applicant's defence, they were achieving 10% biodiversity net gain, but we had asked for amendments to the scheme that reduced that down.
Oh, interesting. Okay, thank you.
And by safety, particularly child safety in relation to the buffer between the course site and the main road. So
yeah, the change from the wildflower mix to hedgerow is what reduced.
Yeah. I mean, overall, the landscape in the planting is good, I think, in terms of the scheme that we're currently addressing. Really, and I think I really like also more clearly the little public courtyards, which we've.
Any other questions or observations? Yes, can I just before you do, can I just ask? I'd like to ask the officers for some clarification, because in answer earlier, Jen Hunt referred to storage uses, and actually there is a condition 37, which restricts, and actually it's in the description of development as well. Commercial units within block 1 should not be occupied other than for specified use within Class E, including retail, cafe, office, research and development, and light industrial. You asked about light industrial, but is there any opportunity for storage use here or not, if that condition's imposed?
You can't without an application.
Another.
The reason that we've looked to restrict the use classes to as applied for is because it's quite a tight site. So in terms of some of the uses, for example, if additional units went to office use, there potentially wouldn't be sufficient parking because there's that higher parking requirement. If retail use, for example, applies, that would be pulling.
No, that wasn't really the question.
So,
and I know Mark just pointed out to me that consolidated conditions 36 and 37, but it's the same point.
yes,
It's restricting it. I'm not asking for the justification, but we were told by the applicant that there could be some storage.
I believe the applicant said they wouldn't.
There wouldn't.
No. Not
No storage.
Not
Good.
storage, sorry.
That's good.
Yeah, you asked me when.
Excellent. Well, that answers that question. Yes, refer to small scale, but that's close.
Yes, I'm just going to come back on the air quality. One other question, if I may. I mean, I'm grateful for Gratian getting donation towards air quality monitoring because this is traditionally an area where that has been a key significant issue and has resulted in significant change in terms of road alignment and the like. My other question really is, again, coming back to probably David's point about the cliff. I'm still not certain about what is happening to the cliff. Why is it outside the application? And are we confident that they weren't, given what has happened both in Gravesham and Dartford in recent times, there won't be a potential problem in that area?
So we have, I think, through the conditions, committed to do work before we commence to do work to ensure and prove to the local planning authority that the cliff is safe and has a long-term plan for its maintenance and of course, if any remedial works needed to be done, they would then be carried out. We have, of course, offset the development quite a lot as well from the cliff, the toe of the cliff, and created quite a large exclusion zone. And of course, what we've also tried to do is keep the actual major development a long way from the cliff. Obviously set towards in this bottom parcel here on the screen. Apologies, David, I'm pointing at the screen, but I'm referring to block 5 is set a long way back. So we feel like through the conditions and the way we design the development, we have managed that risk, but we are obviously acutely aware, given what's happened more widely with the cliffs, of the need to do that. And of course, it is within our legal ownership, so it is our responsibility to ensure that as well.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No. Well, we'll thank the applicant for their presentation. I'm going to ask you to move back to the table, please. You don't need to move far, but just so that we can have a discussion. Contributions from anybody? What do people think?
I think one of the things I'm always thinking is what it's going to be like to live nearby next to this. And I think the design, the frontages, the extra footpaths, greenery, I assume that residents might be able to pop into the coffee shop as well as they haven't got their own, other things. I think that's really good design. I think, like Councillor Moat mentioned, the fact they're improving the footpath as well and the access, foot passengers, travellers, whatever, is also good. So I'm pleased about that. I'm also pleased about the clause that would be restricting it to operating up till 10 p.m. That's important as well for the area.
I think the suggested noise condition also.
Yes,
hopefully will,
yeah.
reduce. I think that's one of the amended conditions, which would keep the noise to such a level that it hopefully intended not to adversely affect people living. Any other views?
My comment, Chair, that yeah, I think it's a great scheme. I think anything that provides employment along with residential use is great. I'd rather like to have a sort of idea of what the employment is going to be. But given the nature of what we're looking at, I suspect it will be high quality and specialist skills. And if it does provide the facility of bringing on small businesses, encourage them on to becoming large businesses, then that's something I would certainly support and wholeheartedly agree with.
And I think that the condition we've got in front of us that restricts it would mean that it's either office, research and development or light industrial. So we're not going to get, and that should startups and so on, follow on, could be accommodated within them. But I suppose with the planning authority, we concerned with the use rather than the occupiers. Councillor Noble.
Yeah, I think I concur with my colleagues. I think it's an extremely good plan. I like it in many respects. I think the design looks good. I like the idea of the integration with the biodiversity and, of course, the environmental aspects of it. I like green roofs, but they can be blooming heavy when you stick them on the top of a building. I think this is another one of these sort of exemplary designs that we can show off to other people in the future. It's the way we should be designing these sort of areas. And the fact it integrates into effectively a residential and a schooling area, it's not an easy thing. And I think that it's been thought out quite well. So certainly, certainly got my support.
Good. Anybody else?
I think it's a significantly improved scheme. Thank you very much. School being close by, doesn't it? The opening of the anyway, so in theory, there are other, different sorts of noise, but nonetheless potentially noisy activities taking place nearby. The other issue is light pollution, which is actually report again and potential light reflection from the cliff and so on and so forth. And I don't know how that's intended to be integrated, because that can in fact have adverse impacts, which this is distressing in some respects of noise.
Perhaps we can ask the officers to do
Thank you.
that.
So
So I think a lighting scheme was submitted with the application, but because no map surveys had yet been undertaken, we have actually put a condition that will need to be reviewed. Clearly, that sensitive lighting will be incorporated as part of that. The KCC highways have also asked for the lighting as with the overspill onto the highway to be accounted for, because that's not shown on the submitted illumination plan, so that is all covered off now by a standard condition.
thank you. That's helpful. But I do believe both the building design and the actual site plan are improved.
Yes. Rather thinking as you were, Annie, about what would it actually be like people I mean, it's quite a challenge here, because you've got the little distribution centre, you've got the school, and you've got the housing. And here, I'm rather imagining children walking to school along the side of the building. And my view, the application meets the challenge of how do you get a light industrial centre whilst allowing children to walk to school. And I think they met the challenge.
Yeah.
And well, I think we've had a debate. Unless there's anything anybody would like to add, I would suggest we move on to consider the resolution, but we're going to have to have a slightly amended resolution. And the proposal that I want to, either I will put it to the committee or let the officers put it to the committee. How would you like to deal with this?
Have you got the wording?
No, it's given it to me.
How do you say that? Fine.
So the recommendation is now that authority be delegated to the Director of Planning and Place to approve the application and grant planning permission subject to imposition of the conditions listed in the report and supplementary report and informatives, with authority to the Director of Planning and Place to make minor changes to wording. That's one. And two, we take that straight from the report, but I'll read it out so that it's clear. Completion to the satisfaction of the Ebbsfleet Development Corporation as local planning authority, the deed of planning obligation under section 106 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990, as amended, to secure the following financial contributions: £3,000 to Gratian Borough Council towards monitoring the air quality network, and £3,000 to Gratian Borough Council towards the implementation of the Gratian Borough Council Air Quality Action Plan. And then there's going to be an item 3, and that is, I haven't got the text for this. 3 is to consideration the request made by Kent County Council for a planning obligation and of any representations made in response to that request. And in the light of that consideration, whether a further planning obligation to make a payment to Kent County Council is required. That would delegate to the Director of Planning and Place the decision on the requirement of that planning obligation.
I just get clarity that the representation
From the
like
applicant.
inviting
Yes.
representation.
No, the applicant. And that's to ensure that fairness to the applicant, because they haven't had a chance to respond to that because it came in moments before committee meeting. I'm just going to check with Tim Sharp that what I've said makes sense.
That's fine. Yeah,
You need to amend it at all?
no, other than to add in Mark's clarification that the representations are from the applicant.
Okay, well, that's the resolution. That's for the committee. Members have indicated that they're generally in favour of the scheme, but now's the chance to decide. So, those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. That deals with that application, and apologies to everybody, but we suddenly had to deal with the late representations from the Kent County Council. Thank you to everybody for bearing with us on that, and the officers for dealing with that. Thank you very much. Right, now on to next agenda item. It's the delegated items report.
Get to the usual reports, really adopted rules for paper. So there's 5 items, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This month, because it covers the period of 1 month. So have to take any questions on the paper.
So we note that report. Right, well, I think that completes the agenda, unless anybody would like to raise anything else. No, thank you very much indeed to everybody.